All right. I think we're working now. I think we're live now. So before I get started here, we'll let a couple more people join up, and I'll give you guys the normal disclaimers that we usually give here, and that is just this is an Ask Me Anything session. Usually Thursday evenings, 7 o'clock Central. I'm here. Sometimes things get in the way. I can't make it. Work, life, family, whatever. But most of the time, Thursday evenings, I'm here at 7 o'clock Central. We're going to do a live broadcast. And my goal to this is just to interact with you guys. So it's just an Ask Me Anything session. I do my best to respond to the comments that come in during the live chat itself. And the only things I ask, be polite, be family friendly. Don't start cussing at us. Don't, call anybody names. Don't be rude, anything like that. We can have friendly debates. We can disagree on things. We can still be friends. There's no reason to be hateful or rude about any of that kind of stuff. So that's all I ask. We don't want to have to kick anybody out. So let's get into it. Wait, before I get started, I do want to tell everybody we may end early tonight. It depends on what time my wife gets home from work, because tonight is my anniversary. So, I do feel like that, if she gets home from work before the hour is up, then we'll just end up having to end the live broadcast a little bit early. But we'll get through as much as we can until that point. Otherwise, we'll go for the full hour. So hello to you, Edward. Good to see you from Northeast Ohio, you said. And Flory Rabbitry from Vancouver. Good to see you. Totally Gomer says, hey, I got in early this time. Well, thanks for joining early or late. Either way, I appreciate it. Edward says, let's see, just got some quail this Sunday. Everything's looking good so far. I got some 3 to 4 week old ones. So I would have a greater Arginine. I think that I'm not of error. Great Argin. All right, are we back? Sorry, I'm having some camera issues here, so hopefully the camera continues to work right. So a great margin. I bet that's what it says. Greater margin of error. Okay, so 3 to 4 week old ones. So hey, good. Congratulations on your new. Oh man. I don't know if you guys can still hear me or not. I'm having some camera issues, so give me just a moment here. I'm trying to get those things fixed. Not sure what the issue is exactly, but working on fixing it. So while I'm working on fixing that, hopefully I can answer a couple more questions. First of all, you can hear me, but you can't see me. There, I think we're back on. I need to get a new cable, I think. I think my cable has got a short in it, so I'm just going to try not to touch any of that stuff, and hopefully the camera will stay on. So anyway, congratulations, Edward, on your new quail. Hopefully they do well. 3 to 4 week old ones, that's a great age to get them at, because they're out of the brooder box at that point, and you'll have a long span with them. I'm sure they're going to do great. So congratulations there. Hello to you, Ari. Heather says, hi. Hello to you, Heather. Ed got bait. Hey, just got the notification. Well, you're right on time. Katrina from Gilroy, California. Hello to you. And Ed says happy anniversary. Thank you. Thank you to Flora and Ari. Everybody saying happy anniversary. Thank you, guys. Charlotte's Crazy Critter says, Heather from a cold Vermont, frost expected in the next 3 nights. And good evening, everyone. I can't imagine frost at this point, but we were getting some pretty good storms coming through today. We had just an amazing amount of rain today. I mean, it just rained all day long. Flooded the streets. There were reports of cars getting stranded on intersections where there wasn't a river anywhere nearby, just water piling up in the streets. The Lowe's parking lot was underwater here. They had pictures of cars in the parking lot at Lowe's that were up above the wheels in water. And again, there's no river or anything near there. It's just water. I mean, it just rained so much. But anyway, hopefully most of that's over. I know we got another round of storms coming through tonight. They're not expecting anything too serious, which is good. We get kind of nervous about storms around here anymore. It was 10 years ago last Saturday that we had the Joplin tornado that, was the great big tornado. If you don't know about it, you can look it up. But so people get a little bit nervous about storms anymore around here. All right. I'm aware that I'm rare says, hi, I love your channel. Thank you so much. Hello to you, Heather from Wisconsin. And Totally Gomer says, happy anniversary. Thank you. Gingerbeard says, good evening, Chris. Hope all is well. I just got the notification. Good job, YouTube. Any tips and tricks to get more does in a litter? I'm getting a lot of males. I'm not sure there's a whole lot you can do to get more does than bucks. A lot of that is, see, I did a video on that a while back. Was it, breeding by the moon phase? Look that one up. Look up that video. I can't remember the details of it now and I haven't actually tested that out, but there was some evidence that breeding by the moon phase could affect how many does versus bucks that you get. I just don't remember the specifics now, if it was on a waxing moon gives you more bucks or a waning moon gives you, I don't remember which one's which. Look that video up. You can go to my YouTube homepage and just search for moon phase, and you should be able to find it through there. It wasn't too long ago, just a month or two ago, that I did that video. So you can watch that one, and that should give you some of the details, something to try anyway. That's the only thing I know to give you advice on, and I can't remember the specifics of it anymore. All right, Ed Godbait says, question, I'm looking for button quail. Where should I look? Oh, good question. I'm not real familiar with who carries button quail. You might check Myshire Farm, Kansas City Quail Farm. Those are the two that I'm kind of partial to as far as ordering eggs from, and I know that they both carry a lot of eggs and a lot of different kinds of birds. They may have button quail. I don't know if they do or not. Other than that, I'm not sure where to point you for button quail. It's just not something I've ever gotten into, so I haven't kept track of it. Make says, happy anniversary. Many more years to you both. God bless you both. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, then we're getting down to where the camera went out, and you guys are saying you can hear me but can't see me. All right, Bob says, hey, Chris, when you repair the closed side of your quail hutch, will you put a layer of plastic sheeting on top to protect the wood underneath? There already is you mean on top of the wood itself on the bottom? No, I probably won't do that, but there is a plastic sheeting over the top of the quail hutch right there in that section to keep the rain out, to give them a place to get out of the wind and the rain and those kinds of things. It's just like 4 mil clear plastic or something like that. I don't know exactly what size it is. Maybe it's 6 mil. I don't remember. But anyway, clear plastic so they have a place to get to. But no, I hadn't thought about putting it down over the wood itself. That's a thought. I don't know if maybe I will. Who knows? I never thought about it. So thank you for the suggestion. Grab a drink here. All right. Isaiah, I think it is. Isaiah Diaz says, what do you think about the vegan teacher? I don't know who the vegan teacher is, but so I don't know what to think about the vegan teacher because I don't know who that is right offhand. Owen says, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Gingerbeard, happy anniversary, thank you. Christopher says, good night, love your videos and happy anniversary. Thank you very much, Christopher. I appreciate that. It's a great name, by the way. That is my name too, Christopher. Mostly my family just calls me Christopher. Everybody else calls me Chris, but still, it is my name. Matthew says, what are you doing for the rabbit virus? Also, what should I do? I'm not doing anything. I'm just not worried about it. You're talking about RH. I can't remember exactly what it is, but yeah, I don't think it's that big of a threat. I mean, it depends on what part of the world you live in. I know it's been detected here in the United States, but I don't really think it's that big of a threat. And as long as you're not, your rabbits aren't just running wild and free ranging on the ground or anything like that, or bringing them in contact with a lot of rabbits you don't know where they came from, it's not a big risk. I don't think it's anything to worry about. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not sure what else you can do really. But the excuse me, the proper things to do would be, if you buy new rabbits or whatever, quarantine them for 30 days away from all your other rabbits in another section altogether so you can watch them, make sure there's no illnesses, any of those kinds of things. Don't just bring in rabbits into your rabbitry and just throw them in there right away. That would be a proper thing to do. But other than that, I don't know there's a whole lot you can do. It's just one of those things. I'm not too worried about it myself, so I'm not doing much. I'm just not worrying about it. All right. Heather says it was gloomy in Wisconsin. Well, it was kind of gloomy here today too. Like I said, rain all day long and pretty heavy rain at times. But anyway, Katrina says, chicken question. I have 3 chickens. They are figuring out who's the top dog. One has a small scab on the top of her beak. Should I use any healer on it? Concerned about potential increase in pecking as it is red. Well, that's a good question. I'm not necessarily an expert on chickens. As far as my experience with quail go, usually they just heal up just fine. It's not much to worry about. Watch them for a couple of days is what I would say, and just make sure that it's not getting worse. If it is getting worse, then yeah, you might want to put something on it. But I usually don't find, like, especially with quail, and they're very similar to chickens in a lot of ways, they heal up from some pretty bad wounds just fine. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to really and it's probably best to just leave them in there with them, because if you take that bird out, not that you were asking that, but if you do take that bird out, then when you reintroduce it, it's going to start all over again. So chances are they've kind of established their pecking order. They're going to leave that bird alone at this point. But, you know, I said watch it for a day or two and make sure. If it does seem to be getting worse, you may need to take some extra steps on it. But other than that, I just wouldn't worry about it. All right. Joy says, happy anniversary from Oregon. Thank you. Christopher says, good night. Happy anniversary. I'm from Guyana, I think it is. I love your videos. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for joining all the way from over there. That's got to be like, like 2 a.m. or something there, right? Really late or really early, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. All right. I'm aware that I'm rare. Says, I'm looking for meat chicken eggs. Haven't found any. Yeah, meat chicken eggs, I think, are difficult. You know, I did find some from, was it Crackle Hatchery, I think it was, that had meat chicken eggs, but they were more expensive than buying birds. They were pricey. I couldn't figure that out. I don't know why. But that's a place you might look. They're located here in Missouri, not too far from me. So that would be one place you might look for them at. All right, Nicholas says, in your own words, how does quail taste? Much respect for the Trinidad from Trinidad and Tobago. Awesome. Well, thank you. I had another viewer that used to join from Trinidad and Tobago. Maybe you guys know each other. I don't remember her name right offhand, but I know I would know it if I heard it. I'm so bad with names and remembering them. All right, so let's get into this then. So how does quail taste? To me, if you've ever had dove, it's very similar to dove. I imagine pigeon's probably pretty much the same because it is basically a dove. But anyway, it's a dense meat. It's not very fatty. It's real lean. I think it has, and this kind of scares people away, but it has a very earthy, minerally kind of flavor to it. And to me, it reminds me of a very, very mild liver flavor of liver, but very mild. Not like, you know, liver can be really strong, and it's not like that at all. It's very mild. Most people really like it. So, you know, I know most people don't really like liver or think they don't like liver anyway. So I hesitate to always tell people that because I'm afraid they're going to be like, ooh, I'm not going to try it then. But it is almost everybody I've fed it to just loves it, thinks it's just great. And I do like it as well. I do think it does better when you add a little bit of fat to it, whether that be wrap it with bacon, you know, butter, you know, something like that to give it a little bit of extra fat. But it is, I don't know, I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Heather says, love your children. I'm not sure. Is that a command or say, do you know my kids? I don't know what you mean exactly by that. If you're making that as a suggestion, love your children, that is a good suggestion. All right. Isaiah says, she's a teacher who criticizes all small and big farmers. Also, do you sell any of your animals? All right. So this is that vegan teacher you were talking about. She criticizes all small and big farmers. Well, you know, to each their own. If they can have whatever. I mean, I'm not criticizing her for being vegan. I do believe that, you know, that's your choice. If you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be a vegan necessarily, but, you know, if you look at our teeth, the way our teeth are made, the way that our, you know, the creator God made us, we are omnivores. We're supposed to eat meat. I believe that, I mean, that is just the natural cycle of things. When you look at our teeth, you can tell these teeth right up here in the front, they're sharp. They're made for tearing meat. These teeth in the back are flat, and they're made for, like, you know, grinding vegetable matter and stuff like that up. So we are meant to be omnivores. We're meant to eat meat and vegetables and all kinds of things. I mean, that's just the way God made us. So I don't see anything wrong with eating meat. I do think that you need to be responsible with the way you raise your animals, try to give them the best life that they can have. I don't know what she's criticizing specifically for, so I can't speak to that. I'd have to look it up, and I'd have to see if, you know, something I agree with. I mean, I think there's plenty of room to criticize, you know, just about everybody for something. I mean, I can be criticized for several things that I do, or, you know, haven't done or have done wrong or whatever. I make all kinds of mistakes, and it's okay. Criticism's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It just depends on how she's doing that. If she's doing that in a respectful way, in other words, I disagree, and here's why I disagree. I feel this way, then I'm okay with that. That's fine. Where I don't really have tolerance for is when it's just blatant. You're an idiot. You're stupid. You're a moron for doing that. Hey, look at that. That's got to be Lars in here with the super chat. Yep. Lars with a 200 Danish crown super chat. Thank you so much, Lars. I always know it's you when that super chat pops up. But anyway, where was I going with that? Yeah. So if it's just, just hateful, hatefulness spewed at you for, then I just don't have any tolerance for that. I just ignore that kind of stuff. It doesn't do you any good to get wrapped up in those debates. You're never going to convince anybody any differently. But anyway, I do believe from a standpoint of, I don't think the world would be sustainable if everybody was a vegan, whether we farmed animals or not. There is just a natural order of, natural, what do you call it, balance there. And, I think that it's important that we have people that hunt and fish and do all those kinds of things within reason. I mean, we can't go overboard with it. There's got to be a balance there. But we've killed off a lot of predators. There's not a ton of predators anymore. And, without hunters out there keeping populations in check of certain things, then, the populations would explode, and then nature would have to take care of that. And nature does that with starvation and disease and all these cruel things that are way worse than hunting. So I don't know. We're getting a little bit off topic, but anyway, those are some of the things that I believe with that. I don't know who this vegan teacher is. I don't know the specifics of what she says or anything, so I can't really speak to her specifically. But, maybe next time. Maybe I'll look it up. I doubt it, but maybe. We'll see. All right. Manuel says, I have some quails. They're about 1.5-year-old, and they're laying lots of double yolk eggs. What causes this? It's actually just something that just happens. There's not necessarily a cause for it. Some birds are a little bit more prone to it than other birds are. And usually when they first start laying, or they first start laying of the season. So if they just recently started laying, that's it. That's all it is. Sometimes they'll lay some little bitty tiny eggs, some great big eggs. It just takes them a little while to get back into the cycle of laying eggs. So when birds first come of age, or when they first start laying again, when they come back into season, you're going to get a lot of those different kinds of eggs. It doesn't mean anything. Just be patient. It'll work itself out. It's nothing to worry about. Somebody asked me if I sell that was you, Isaiah. I forgot to answer that last part of, do I sell any of my animals? Occasionally I do sell them, but I sell them locally. So I just put up, maybe some quail on Craigslist, or, a couple of baby rabbits here or there or something. Because just to help cover feed costs. But no, I don't sell them on a large scale. I'm not in the business to sell them. All right, Charlotte says, or Charlotte's Crazy Critters anyway, says, what breed of meat rabbits are the best? We're given 3 Flemish Cross. Is this a specific breed? Well, Flemish Cross are a cross breed. They're Flemish crossed with something else, probably a New Zealand. That seems to be the most common. Personally, I don't think that those are great meat rabbits. They'll still produce meat for you. It's nothing wrong with them. They're not the best meat rabbits. And the reason I say that is Flemish Giants, in my experience, and if they have Flemish blood in them at all, in my experience, the babies tend to grow out very, very slow. And Flemish Giants have a worse, even though they get great big, they're, look at that. I got another super chat here. Sorry, I got to answer the question from the super chat. This is from Carlos, a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Carlos. Says you can hit the button in your backyard, your garage, your deck, heck, even in a spare room. That's the way you want to do it. Thank you so much, Carlos. I appreciate that. I'm playing on my introduction that I use about half the time anymore. All right, so as far as the best breed of meat rabbit, I don't know if there's one that we can consider necessarily the best breed. You can't go wrong with New Zealand whites, with Californias. Let's see, Florida whites are good. Chinchillas make a good meat rabbit. Even standard Rex make a good meat rabbit. But the most popular are probably going to be New Zealand whites and Californias, and both of those are great meat rabbits. What I usually suggest, unless you plan on like building a rabbitry up where you're going to be building up breeding rabbits, and you want to expand and make it great big, I always suggest getting two rabbits of different breeds, so a California and a New Zealand, and then you crossbreed those. Those babies will have hybrid vigor. Now, that doesn't carry on for generation after generation. It's best to have your breeders as pure breeds if you can, but you can't go wrong with getting a New Zealand white doe and a California buck, or vice versa. And then those, you breed them, and their babies are the ones that are your meat rabbits that you end up taking to the table. I've had really good results with doing those things. Even, a California buck and a chinchilla doe, or a chinchilla buck and a New Zealand white doe. I mean, whatever. Just two good meat rabbits that are purebred, and you cross them, and then that gives you some great meat rabbits in the. Now, there's nothing wrong with Flemish cross. They're going to produce young for you. They're going to do just fine. You may just have a slower grow out rate with them. That's just been my experience with it. So it's nothing to worry about. It's not like you need to get rid of those rabbits and to go out and buy new ones immediately. There's nothing wrong with going ahead and doing what you're doing with them. Get the hang of breeding the rabbits, get familiar with it, and get, all those kinds of things. And then if you want to change up, you can always change up later on down the road. All right. And when I say grow out slow, what I'm usually talking about is that, a New Zealand white, a good New Zealand white, a good California, the babies should reach about 5 pounds, which is about butcher weight, by 8 to 10 weeks, somewhere right around in there. In my experience, when they have Flemish blood in them, it takes them more like 14 weeks, something like that. So it is a slower growth. That's all it is. All right. Roy says, hi from Ontario, says hello to everyone. Says, I break chicken layer pellets in blender and mix it with game bird crumble for my hens. Can I use layer mash instead of pellets? I suppose you could use layer mash. What I would worry about is that quail have a higher protein percentage requirement than chickens do. So, what I would worry about, and I don't know what the protein level is of the game bird or of the pellets or the mash for that matter. It's probably got more calcium than they need, and it's probably going to have less protein than they need. So unless you've got a really high protein game bird feed, I'm not sure that it's probably going to lower that protein level quite a bit. Excuse me. Oh, that's my wife. Let me respond to her real quick. She's on her way home from work, but it'll take her half an hour probably to get here. So we're pretty good anyway for a while. Where are we at here? So anyway, I would be worried about lowering your protein levels too much and also maybe bumping your calcium up too much. Quail only need 1.5% calcium in their diet. So if that calcium level is much higher than that, if it goes over about 2.5%, you could end up with some issues with your eggs having too thick of eggshells, making it difficult for the hatchlings to hatch out of them, and it can really affect your hatch rates. Also, you can run into things like leg problems and some of those kinds of things with too high of calcium levels. That's probably, it's probably not a concern until you start getting up close to about 3% calcium, but that would be something to look out for. As far as protein levels, I really like to use a high protein game bird feed, so I use anything over 25%, but you can get away with lower than that. Just try not to go below 20%. 20% is a good kind of base minimum. So if you're adding that mash to it and it's dropping it down below 20% protein, that would be a concern as well. You could just add less to it, I guess, to do that, but those are just a couple of things that I would be concerned with. All right, Ari says, recently my quail eggs have been cracking in the incubator, and I don't know why. The temperature and humidity has been consistent, and I've been really careful. What should I do? Good question. I'm not sure why they would be cracking either in the incubator. So you're not talking about them cracking like when they're getting close to hatching or something like that. You're just talking about them. They're just cracking in the incubator while you're incubating before you get anywhere near lockdown or any of those kinds of things. That's what I'm assuming. So I guess a few things there would be check your egg turner, what kind of egg turner you have. Make sure it's not jostling them around too much, but they should be sturdy enough to handle that. Check your protein or your calcium levels. Make sure your calcium levels aren't too low. Like I said, 1.5% is kind of the minimum. So if they're much lower than that, or 1.5% is about right. If they're much lower than like 1% calcium level in your feed, you may need to add some calcium. Oh, got another super chat. Got to jump in and answer it. It's Carlos again, $5 super chat. He says, is there a problem if I feed 30% game bird to all my quails, baby and older? Not a problem at all. That's exactly what I do. All my birds get 30% game bird starter. They all do great on it. So not a problem at all. In fact, that's what I recommend. If you can get 30% game bird feed, do it. All right. Where were we with that? All right. So again, check your calcium levels. Ari, I'm hoping I'm getting that right. It's Ari, not Ari. I'm assuming it's Ari. Check your protein level or your calcium levels. If they're below 1%, you may need to add some calcium. Don't just mix it in with their feed, though. You can get like crushed oyster shell or even take their egg shells, bake them off, and crumble them up so they don't look like eggs anymore. And then, because otherwise they may start eating their own eggs. But otherwise, and put it in a separate container. They'll eat as much of that as they need to. So that would be one thing that when you start talking about eggs cracking too easily, it immediately makes me think of a protein or a calcium deficiency because eggshells are mostly calcium. So that's a couple of suggestions I have for that. Hopefully it helps. I'm not sure where else to point you to, I guess. All right. I'm aware that I'm rare. It says, thanks, Chris. Happy anniversary. Well, thank you. Katrina says, in general, I agree with leave it be. First-time chicken mom, and and I know they are supposedly pecking things that are red. Hen healer has blue to prevent additional pecking if a wound is red. It's a small scab. Oh, there you go. There's some good suggestions. Thank you for that. Gingerbeard says, hey, Chris, we let our quail take a laying break during the winter. The laying season started again this year, and one of the roosters turned extremely aggressive towards the other roo. Is that normal? It's not abnormal. I wouldn't say it's incredibly normal, but it's not abnormal. When they first hit the breeding season, they get the hormones are raging. So, just think of being a teenager and what it was like, when you were a teenager. That's basically what they are whenever they first start laying eggs, first start crowing. And it's not uncommon for them to pick some fights. Usually they'll work that out pretty quick and they'll calm down. But it may be something you have to keep an eye on because he could, they can definitely kill another bird if you're not careful. All right. Jazzy says 100 degrees in beautiful Mesa, Arizona. It's nowhere near that here. We got up to 80 degrees yesterday or 85 degrees yesterday. And today it cooled back off because we had rain all day. So it was in the high 60s, 68, 69, something like that. It actually wasn't too bad out temperature-wise. All right, Carrie says, I love eating dove and quail. I like earthy tastes. I don't eat rabbits. I consider them dirty meat. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to eat rabbit. But yeah, I kind of like the earthy taste of quail and dove and those things too. I think it's good. Jennifer says, hello from Buffalo, New York. I have a question about baby bunnies. We have a 6-week-old bunny, and we noticed the past 2 days her BM has changed and has become like a watery mucus. And so we took her somewhere to the vet, and she's on 3 different meds, and she still won't eat any hay or pellets. What else can I do to help her out? Oh, that's unfortunate. A few things I would say. You said a baby bunny, 6-week-old bunny. Okay, so that's probably a little bit young. And then you're saying that she's not eating and all, but there is, rabbits will produce cecotropes. I think is how they're pronounced or what they're called, which is a kind of a mucusy looking, droppings, for lack of a better term, that they actually eat. It has a lot, and it's good for them. They're supposed to do that, so don't be freaked out by that. And sometimes you'll look at that, you'll see that, and you'll think, oh, no, there's something wrong with my rabbit. But it sounds like there is something wrong with your rabbit. You're saying she won't eat any pellets or hay, which is strange. I would remove all the pellets, give her hay-only diet for a little while. If it is truly like diarrhea or something like that, that's a real serious concern. Things that can cause that would be, if there's some kind of illness. Now, I'm sure the vet has checked for that, and that's what the meds are for, to help her with that. Coccidiosis would be the main one I would be concerned about, or weaning enteritis. You said she's 6 weeks old, so my guess is that she's been weaned from the mother, and 6 weeks is just right at the edge of whenever it's good. 6 weeks old, they should be weaned, but at the same time, sometimes they're not. And when you get that sudden change in diet, they call weaning enteritis, and it can lead to diarrhea. Now, diarrhea can be a very serious thing. So if she's still drinking, give her some electrolytes in her water or something. Something like Pedialyte or something like that should be fine. Not full straight on, dilute it, just a little bit in the water. I give her a little bit of extra energy there. I would give her just hay only to eat for a little while until this clears up. Hopefully she'll start eating pretty quick. It sounds like now with her being on different meds, I'm hesitant to tell you to give her anything else. But something you can help if she's bloated, and that may be why she's not eating. You can give her like baby gas drops, like you would give a baby for gas, and those can help as well. But don't do that without talking to the vet, because it may interact with her other medications, and I don't know what other medication she's on. Even if I did, I don't know that I'd be able to help much with that. I'm sorry. I wish I had better advice, but that's all I know to do right offhand. Keep an eye on her. Hopefully she gets better pretty quick. Carrie says, I love eating wild plants too. Yeah, there's quite a few wild plants that I like to eat as well. Rose says, Chris, do you have to let fresh killed birds rest in the fridge before freezing? You don't have to. I think it's best practice, though, to let any meat rest before freezing it. It can be in the fridge. You can do it lots of people do it in ice water in a cooler. Just let it rest until the rigor mortis leaves the meat. Usually, with a quail, a small bird like that, it's pretty quick. You're looking 48 hours maybe. It's not a huge resting time. Somebody commented on one of my videos that after you process your animals, if you brine them, it will keep rigor mortis from setting into the meat. I don't know if that's true or not, but their explanation sounded pretty reasonable. So that could be something to try as well. But yeah, I do think it is best practice to let them rest before you freeze them. All right. Hello to you, Robin. Good to see you. Matthew, hello. Lisa says, sorry, but I could not watch your processing quail video. My birds provide eggs, but I could never eat them. There's nothing wrong with that, Lisa. It's okay. You don't have to eat your birds if you want them for just eggs. That's perfectly fine. And you don't need to watch the processing videos. You don't have to apologize for that. I know it's not for everybody, and that's okay. But I do feel like I should show. I mean, that is part of why I raise my animals, is to provide meat for my family. Whether that be the rabbits or the quail or the dog. No, not the dog. I'm kidding about that. But so I do feel like that is something that I need to show people every once in a while, is that, this isn't, and it's not fun. It's not something I enjoy doing. But if I'm buying meat from the store, I feel like I should be responsible enough to be able to process my own meat as well. But that's just how I feel with it. So Matthew says she's super pushy and disrespectful. Who is? Are we talking about the vegan teacher again? Okay, well, maybe I won't look it up then. I don't need any more pushiness and disrespectfulness in my life. I get plenty of hateful comments on my videos, though. People come in and just call me a monster, say the worst things to me, and just ignore them because who cares? All right, Marty says, wow, I can't believe I almost missed this. Hey, Chris, this is Marty from West Virginia. Good to see you, Marty. Thanks for joining. Matthew says, like says, you'll go to hell if you eat meat. Really? And Jazzy says the Bible says all meat is good. It does. Well, I don't know if it says all meat is good, but yeah, for the most part, I always think of the passage in I can't remember where the passage is. Is it in Acts? I don't remember, but it is, where Peter's vision, and the Lord lays out before him the blanket with all the different kinds of animals on it. And he says, rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter says, I've never eaten anything unclean. God says, do not declare unclean what the Lord has declared clean. So that pretty much covers it. We're free to eat whatever we want. Now, that doesn't mean you're wrong if you don't want to eat something, or if you think something you shouldn't be eating. That's okay. You can think, well, I shouldn't be eating this. I don't feel like, God doesn't want me to eat that. That's okay. That's your personal conviction. You don't have to eat it. It's okay. But I think Carrie says all clean meat is good. Jazzy says, too bad I'm not a good cook. Well, hey, that's something, it can be a learned skill. Just because you're not a great cook doesn't mean you couldn't become a great cook. So just like anything else, you can learn whatever you want to learn today online. Watch some good, if you want to be a good cook, watch some good cooking channels. And what I would suggest is not trying to look up. I mean, if you're not a great cook, you can definitely get recipes and just follow the recipes. But if you really want to learn to cook, then what you should be studying is kind of like how different flavors work together. You'll find there's some pretty consistent things in cooking. Now, baking's a whole different thing, but cooking, you have a lot of freedom to kind of mix your ingredients together. So start learning like what is similar. Like what if a recipe calls for butter? What can I use in place of butter if I don't have butter, or if I want to use something different? And you got to realize butter is just a fat. So you could use oil, you can use bacon grease, any other kind of fat you could use in place of it. So anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent there, but that is something you can learn to cook if you want to learn to cook. All right. Carlos says, I'm not sure what that means. Jazzy says, no one's talking about dirty meat. Well, what you consider dirty meat, what somebody else considers dirty meat may be different things. That's okay. All right. Ari says, I also forgot to mention I have oyster shells that I put in their food, so I don't think that's the issue. Also, they're 5 months old, so they've been laying for a while. I would suggest don't put the oyster shells in their food. Put it in a separate container. You don't want to mix it in, because if they get too much calcium, you could be running into issues with different kinds of things too. I don't know if that could lead to eggs cracking. I don't think so. But it can be bad to have too much calcium in their diet as well. Don't just mix it in with their food. Put it in a separate container form. All right, Matthew says, yes, I fully believe that. Jazzy, that no one is talking about dirty. Oh, that the Bible says all meat is good. Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about meat, and Ari said, I forgot to mention about oyster. And as soon as I heard oyster, I thought, oh, that's one I do not like. I cannot stand oysters. Don't like them at all. All right. I skipped too far down. Pete's World says, do you ever feed greens from the gardens to your rabbits? Not very often. Occasionally, maybe a little bit. Usually not from the garden. Sometimes I'll pick them some dandelion or plantain out of the yard, some of those kinds of things, but in small amounts. You don't want to just give them huge amounts of food. Any kind of drastic diet change on a rabbit's not really good, so you want to ease them into that. If you're going to start feeding them things from your garden, and most things you grow in your garden would be considered treats, not rabbit food. So like, tomatoes and green beans and cucumbers and don't ever feed them tomato vine. Just the fruit is okay, but not the vine. All those things are pretty high in sugar. It shouldn't be their main diet. It should just be little bits of it. Don't ever feed them iceberg lettuce. In fact, lettuce in general is probably not good for them. Stay away from that. A little bit of spinach here and there is okay. Some of the darker greens, broccolis, brassicas, those kinds of things are okay as well. All right. Robin says hi. Outside in Georgia says hello. Hello to both of you. Outside in Georgia says, I'm not that confident I calibrated my thermometer right because I get like 50% or less hatch rate. And when I check the egg, a lot almost hatched. Sounds like I should slowly increase the temp. You could have your temperature could be a little bit low, especially if your birds are starting to hatch late. So, they should start hatching on about day 18, roughly. So if they're hatching out more on day like 19 or 20 before you start getting the first ones really hatching, then yeah, that's an indicator that your temperature may be just a little bit on the low side. Calibrating a thermometer is not terribly difficult, but it's easy enough to make a mistake in that. And when you start getting poor hatch rates, I get what you're saying. You're second guessing. So yeah, I mean, it very well could be that your incubator is just running a little bit on the cool side. You might bump it up half a degree and see if that affects anything. All right. Ari says, thank you. Also, thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Good. I got it right. I'm about wrong about half the time on those. Marty says, I'm ready to get a breeding trio. Do you have a favorite rabbit breed that is good for meat and the fur? I'm wanting to make clothing items, baby blankets, gloves, and boot linings. Okay. A couple things I'll say about that. If you're looking for fur, Rex is probably your best bet. And they make a standard Rex, not a mini Rex. And they make a decent meat rabbit. So that's a good dual purpose rabbit. There's probably a few out there. That's the only one I can think of right offhand. But if you're wanting to make clothing out of them, when you process the babies at 8 to 9 weeks old, when they get to be about 5 pounds, the fur's really not good quality fur. It's not going to be good for making baby blankets or gloves or any of those kinds of things with. It's usually, it's pretty thin at that point, and it's usually only good for like craft purposes. Not to say you can't do it, just don't expect that stuff to have the same durability that it would if you were to use an older animal's hide for that. But again, I'm not necessarily an expert on tanning or any of those kinds of things, but I just didn't want you to get unrealistic expectations of that. You may have different results. I know plenty of people have saved the hides from the rabbits that they've processed for meat, younger rabbits, and made things out of them. And they turned out okay. My concern would be, just like I said, I don't know how long it would last. But anyway. All right, just checking the time, see how we're doing. Sillamore says, I know you don't keep attendance, but I'm late. Hope you're doing well. From South Central Arkansas. Thank you, Sillamore. I appreciate that. Hope you are too. Olivia, what happened if you keep the bunny? What happens if a bunny and the K are 4 weeks to 4 weeks Lego crazy? Will it? I don't know. I'm sorry, Olivia. I think you got some autocorrect going on there. I don't know what you're asking me exactly. You may have to ask that one again. Something about 4 weeks Lego crazy will let it go on the floor by I don't know what. I'm sorry. I'm lost on that one. All right. Joey says, hey, curious, what's your thoughts on raising a couple of turkeys for food? Sounds like a great idea to me. I can't do it here. I live in town, and turkeys would draw too much attention, I think, and probably get me in trouble. But yeah, seems like a great idea. Why not? All right. Aho, I think it is. Hopefully I got your name right. Says, you're like Walter White, but with quails. I know other people say I look like Walter White. I think it's just because the bald head. I think that's all there is to it. But hello to you, Cheyenne and Carlos. More like Bob Ross. I don't think I look anything like Bob Ross. But speaking of, I got a Bob Ross paint set here. Look at that. I got that as a gift for somebody. There's Bob Ross. All right. Trevor says, Hey, there's a lot of talk about feeding rabbits too much greens. How do so many people get away with raising their rabbits grow out on pasture? Is that not too much greens, so to speak? Well, I think there's a difference between too much greens and pasture. Pasture is not greens necessarily. I think when people are talking about too much greens, what they're mostly talking about is things like lettuce and collard greens and spinach and cabbage and those kinds of things. Those are what cabbage probably isn't one of those, but those are what most people would consider to be greens. And that is, again, those should be treats. Those are not main diet type things. Rabbits on pasture are going to eat a lot of grass and plantain and dandelion and those kinds of things that grow on the ground and not typically lettuce and things. You're not going to put them on pasture in a garden where you're growing lettuce and that kind of stuff. And too many greens can be bad for any kind of animal. They're incredibly high in fiber and they've got really high water contents, which can lead to diarrhea in your animals. Not only that, but when I speak of too much greens, I'm talking about drastic changes in their diet. Like you're feeding them pellets and then suddenly you take the pellets away and you start feeding them greens. That can be bad. So anyway, there's a couple of things that hopefully that clears it up. My thoughts on it anyway. All right, Ryan's Rabbit, he says, Aho Yaki, right? Oh, it looked like Walter White. That was it. Kathy says, Rabbit Gatorade, 1 cup of water, 2 tablespoons raw sugar or molasses, and a 1/4 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of salt. Well, thank you for that, Kathy. I appreciate it. All right, Tree Leaves says, hi, everyone. I'm getting ready to begin my quail hatching adventure. What would you recommend for an incubator? It depends on how serious you want to get about this. I'm assuming you're going to probably want to get, you can get small incubators that incubate 10 or 12 eggs at a time or whatever. They're supposed to work pretty well. You can go with larger incubators. I'll grab my incubator, but I'm actually incubating eggs right now, so I can't pick it up and bring it over here to show you. But like the styrofoam incubators that are, yay big, by that tall, those, I think if I was going to go, get a new one, I use a Little Giant right now, and it works pretty well. They've got great customer service. I had the thermostat go out on it one time, and I called them up, and they just sent me a brand new thermostat just like 2 days. It was great. No charge. That didn't ask me about when I bought it, if it was under warranty, any of that stuff. Just sent me a new thermostat. So they've got great customer service. I can speak to that. I think if I was going to buy a new one, I would buy a Hovabator. What is it? 1602, I think is the model number. Don't quote me on that one. But the one with the fan in it. Those get really good reviews, and I've heard really good things about those. So there's a couple of suggestions for incubators. If you're going to buy one from like a Tractor Supply or a local farm store or whatever, you're probably going to either get Little Giant or Farm Innovations. Those are probably the two that they have, and both of them are going to work just fine. You're not going to go wrong with either one of them. All right. Gary says, good evening, all. Warm and sunny in South Mississippi. It's not supposed to be. It's been raining and raining and raining and raining, just nonstop rain, it seems like, for the last 2 weeks. Sillamore says, everything God made was good, but different animals were made for different purposes. Scavengers are not meant for food, just my opinion. Yeah, I agreed. I don't like, I don't eat scavengers and I don't eat predators. Those two don't seem to go well in my mind. And when I speak, I'm not talking about fish. I'll eat fish that are, because all fish are pretty much predators. I'm not worried about that. But I'm talking like bobcat or, any of those, like wolves or any of that. That just doesn't seem right. But that's just me. If you want to eat them, you go right ahead. All right, Ari says, how do I get my quail to eat oyster shells, though? Even when I mix it with their food, they try to avoid it. That probably means they've got plenty of calcium in their diet, or they're too big. If they're great big chunks of oyster shell, well, they probably won't eat that. You'll need to grind it up smaller, which, good luck. They're tough. They're hard to do. They'll self-regulate on how much calcium they need with that. So I don't know that you need to worry about getting them to eat it necessarily. Check your food. If your feed content's got 1.5% to 2% calcium in it, you don't even need to offer them any oyster shell. That may be why they're not eating it, because they just don't need any more calcium. Lisa says rabbits can burp. So I think there was more to that, but it cuts off. Rabbits can burp, so don't know. Owen says, I grow hydroponic barley for my quail, and they seem to like it. Oh, my wife is home. I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. I'm going to get this wrapped up so I can go spend some time with my wife because, like I said, it is our anniversary. So, there's nothing wrong with that. Look up growing fodder for them. It's basically barley or any of those kinds of things. You can do that for your rabbits. You can do that for your quail. I'm sure they do like it. Sounds like a good plan. Jones says, hey, checking in from Northeast Ohio. Thanks for taking the time to do this for us. You're absolutely welcome. And Acha, I think it is, says, I need your help. I crossed my rabbit several times, but it has not gotten pregnant. I don't know if I can help with that. Unless it's incredibly hot where you're at, like 90 degrees plus Fahrenheit, the chances are it's probably something wrong with that doe. I would look at maybe getting a new doe. If it is incredibly hot, like 90 degrees plus, there could be a chance that your bucks have gone sterile from the heat. That can happen. Anything over about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, when it cools off, they'll regain, but it's a temporary thing. So anyway, all right. All right, guys, I'm sorry if I didn't get to your question. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up tonight. Like I said, I got other things to do, so hopefully you understand. I'm really trying to get back into the routine of answering comments on the videos a little bit more frequently. In fact, at all. I have not been doing a good job of that, and I apologize for that. So bear with me. I'll talk myself back into it. It's just been, things have been crazy busy here lately, and I've just been kind of worn out and just kind of lazy, honestly. So I will try to get back to it. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me tonight. If I didn't get to your question today, I'm so sorry. Hopefully we'll be back again next Thursday. Nothing will block us from getting on here and spending some time together. So thanks for watching, guys. As always, God bless, and we will see you next week.